Hi, welcome to Sisterhood Sessions.
Join us on the couch every Thursday to talk about love, dating, happiness, and everything in between
From a Gen Z
and a millennial perspective.
We are your intimate sisters, and we're all about entertaining, motivating, and inspiring you.
Now let's get into it.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back, everybody.
Nice to see you again.
So if you watched our last episode, but you should have, Sophie has a little update.
Oh my gosh. You guys, I was so excited to go on this date. And when I tell you, no exaggeration, this is the worst date I've ever been on. And it lasted all of 90 seconds. Anyway, if you don't follow me on TikTok, go and do that. There is an update there full of all the juicy details. It's worth a watch, but so disappointing. I'm so tired. I'm so tired of dating.
Dating is exhausting.
Yeah, it's so exhausting when you have to deal with people like that. What the heck, man? Anyway.
Today we're going to talk about how comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think we spend so much of our lives comparing ourselves to other people. And when I was first sort of researching this topic, I, was viewing it through the lens of like comparing yourself to others is a negative thing. But I actually learned a lot, and there is actually a scientific purpose for why we compare ourselves to others in the first place. And a simple shift in mindset can really change things around.
Yeah.
So I guess a good place to start is, why do we compare ourselves to others?
It's human nature. I really like the way you describe it.
So comparing yourself to other people and to former versions of yourself is kind of like a self-calibration tactic. And it essentially creates a baseline and helps us better understand where we are in life and what our future goals are. So it's a great way of examining what we want. So if I'm envious of Sarah because she has something that I don't have, that's a really good indicator that maybe I should work towards that, if it's within the realm of possibility. So
Yeah, like if I'm jealous or envious of your travels, that's just like an indicator to me that I should get out and see the world and see that for myself.
So yeah, it really depends on your mindset. Comparison can be super negative, and we're about to jump into why that is. But it can also be a motivator, and we'll chat about that later. But first, let's talk about the negative side effects of comparing yourself to others.
I feel like the biggest one with social media is kind of body image, but also now in the day of like influencers and what that's looking like is you see these people on these like lavish vacations with all this money, and like the average person can't do all the things they do. Like I feel like anyone who sees that would be envious, unless you are like a multi-millionaire, billionaire, like a lot of these people are now. Or even like looking at people who have, maybe a ton of filters or surgical procedures or Photoshop or just know their angles on your feed of every single social media app. The first thing you see is just a pretty person though. So like you're not going to think like, oh yeah, well that's all fake, even though a lot of it is. But you just see a pretty person, and then it can make you feel a little crappy. It's made me feel a little crappy. Like seeing people living these lavish lifestyles doesn't make me feel great because I can't afford to do that.
I think, your generation is really one of the first generations that is experiencing this to the extent of how things are. Because yes, our generation and previous generations, we had that same sort of like admiration, or kind of like we would see these celebrities
like
on magazines and movies, and whatever, on E! News or TMZ even, but previous generations just in newspapers and, you know, but today it's so much more than just that interview or that picture or that movie or that red carpet event. Because of social media, you get to see behind the scenes. You get to see the houses they live in, what their bedroom looks like, what kind of food they get to stock inside of their fridge, 100 bottles of coconut water, how they raise their kids, how many nannies they have, the holidays that they go on. Like, it makes the inferiority complex so much more intense.
And then it's so rapid. Like every time you take your phone out of your pocket or your purse, you are just flooded with seeing all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, maybe like at the end of your day, you would go home and turn on to watch a movie where you'd see like Marilyn Monroe and you're like, wow, she's gorgeous. But that was the extent of it. Mm-hmm. But now it's every time you open your silly little phone, that's all you see.
Yeah.
It's the rapidness of it. And then how much you see. Like, yeah, now people are like, yeah, their home lives are being glamorized.
Mm-hmm. Like, if we're talking about how it impacts your insecurities, there is one incident. I hope you don't mind me bringing this up, but for me, the one thing that's always shocking is when a new trend emerges. For my generation, it was the thigh gap. It's like on Tumblr, everyone was talking about like you had to have a thigh gap. It's just the way that it was. And if you didn't have one, you needed to, you know, get one by whatever means. And that was really like the theme.
Tumblr was so toxic.
It was
back
super
in,
toxic.
The early 2010s, late 2000s.
The rail thin girls. But for your generation, and this shocked me, it's hip dips. And that is a term like I hadn't even heard before. And it's not even something that ever crossed my mind as being a part of the body that you needed to pay attention to. And it's so wild
now
to me.
everyone wants like the widest like Kim Kardashian hips, which is implants, filler, and BBLs. But everyone wants a big butt and big hips and a teeny tiny waist and like proportioned boobs to that. And like people want like thick and curvier girls, or they did a couple years ago, and now it's already slowly going back
swinging back the other way.
It's like you can never win. And also now trends are so rapid. Like trends used to cycle like every couple decades. Now like 2 years ago, already the 2000s were coming back into trend. And now I think we're like going back to like the 90s or 80s a little bit.
It's moving so fast.
Every single year we're switching to a different year.
Yeah.
Like I think already Tumblr was coming back as like
a trend,
like kind of like that fashion.
Oh my gosh.
Like we can't keep up with it.
No, it's too much too fast. And it's not fun because it makes it feel even further out of reach. You know, like having to change your self-identity up to keep up with the trends so fast. It's not good for you. It's not good for your mental health. Like,
it's not.
I'm kind of like at an age now where being cool and following the trends and being on brand and whatever, like that isn't really as much of a focus as it was when I was in my 20s. But I know that in my 20s, like it caused a lot of anxiety in me, having to always feel like I was keeping up with, you know, what was trendy and cool. And luckily, like in my 30s now, that's less of a focus and I don't worry about it as much, but
it's still there a little bit.
Of course it's still there a little bit. You know, you don't want to, the focus shifts, right? Like in your 20s, you're like, ooh, I got to keep up with it. And like, because you want to be like others around you. And then in your 30s, I think for me, it's like, I don't want to be like other 30-year-olds, which sounds awful. I just, but I don't want to be, how do I explain this? Like, I still want to be like in the know. And I don't want to feel like I'm one of those 30-year-olds who has no idea what's going on in pop culture and who isn't like up to date.
You don't want to be out of touch.
I don't want to be out of touch. It's a weird balance because I've just said I don't care, but I do care to an extent. But it's like, it doesn't consume so much of my mental space now, but it still matters a little bit, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like, I feel There's so many other like negative aspects to comparing yourselves to others. Like it can bring anxiety. It can like, you know, bring you feelings of sadness if you don't feel like you belong or can keep up or you have what everyone else around you has.
A big one for me in my age range is the fact that I'm not married and that I don't have kids. That's a really tough one to think about, you know. I'm single, and it's sometimes really hard to sit back and, you know, kind of think, oh, I mean, I feel really left behind in some ways, and I'm like...
Well, it doesn't help when people point that out to you and try and make you almost feel bad for it. You've had that happen. For me, I feel like it's because I'm 21 years old and I'm not in school or pursuing a higher education. And I mean, maybe I will someday, but I'm not right now, and I currently don't have any plans of going back to school. Like, it's that school isn't needed a lot, like, as much anymore, I feel.
It depends what you want to do,
It depends
right?
what you want to do, and then also, like, if I'm going to go to school, it's coming out of my own pocket, and that's not something that's feasible for me right now. So it's out of the picture unless I decide that my career path really requires it in, like, 5 years from now. I don't know. But I've had people try and make me feel bad about it. Like, why are you not in school, Sarah? Like, what are you doing with your life? I'm like, I'm sorry, are you going to pay for my education? Like, then get off my back. Like,
yeah.
So, like, that's something that people try and bring to me. And, yeah. But I compare myself to others my age. Like, well, I'm not getting that college experience, which, like, seems so fun in terms of the partying and the meeting people. Like, I don't get that, so I feel left out. But then also, like, maybe I'm doing better than some others that are just going to school and, like, spending all this money to ditch the degree that they're going to get. And, like, you know, it's like, I don't know where to kind of compare myself. But
it's so hard, right?
I feel like I'm missing out, but that I'm also, like, doing okay at the same time. Like,
it's such a hard thing because, you know, I didn't go to university either. Well, I did 4 separate times. That's a whole other story. But when I watched, you know, my favorite TV shows, and I'm like, you know, Veronica Mars or One Tree Hill or whatever, and they're all at college and they're all experiencing these college-y things like living in a dorm and decorating it. And
Rory Gilmore, I'm like, maybe I should be going to Yale. I don't know. Like,
I want to go to Yale.
Me too.
But, you know, I totally get that feeling of like, it's the fear of missing out. Like, and
FOMO.
It is. And you're always like, okay, did I make a mistake by taking this path? But then the other part of you is like proud of the path you're taking because it's the path less traveled. And
I'm going a little bit against the grain here. Like, yeah.
Who knows what will come of it? But you know what? At the end of the day, we're living our lives and we're doing our best. And yeah. So those are the dangers of comparing yourself to others. You know, we are victims of, you know, of that. Everyone is. But let's talk about the tools we can use to stop comparing ourselves to other people.
The biggest one I've learned is to switch your mindset about it. So if, like, someone has a nice outfit and you like it, you're like, oh, like, why don't I have clothes like that? Or like, why can't I piece together outfits like that? Try and switch it and be like, how can I be more like that? Like, let's start curating a Pinterest feed with, like, things I like, things that are similar to, like, my wardrobe, and, like, see how other people piece them together so I can build up my own, like, fashion sense and sense of style. But it's just, like, it's that mental switch of it becoming, like, comparison or, like, envy and switching it to, like, admiration. Like, how can inspiration. Yeah. Like, how can I incorporate that into my life? Like, okay, like, there's something I'm feeling about this situation. What can I do to, like, bring it into my life? A
massive one for me was curating my social media. So just unfollowing the accounts that would make me feel less than whenever they came up on my feed. And that's not to say that I don't respect those creators and that I don't think that they're incredible people and beautiful people. But seeing that content on my feed just didn't make me feel good. And then on top of that, I made a conscious effort of following women who were educated and had something interesting to say. Women who were older than me and didn't have plastic surgery, who had like wrinkles and gray hair and were aging gracefully, you know? And I follow a lot of accounts that make me really happy, like animal accounts and nature accounts and travel accounts and whatever it is. So when I go on my Instagram or on my TikTok or wherever, what I see are things that make me happy, that bring me comfort, and that inspire me. And that's super important to me.
Yeah. I like that. I know one other thing you do.
What?
Your journals.
Oh, my journals. Yeah, I have so many journals. I write so many things down. It's not like where I write about my day necessarily, because
It's not a diary.
It's not a diary. I'm not disciplined enough for that.
But I know you do like your 5-minute journals and like you write down things that make you happy, and I feel like just switching that mindset to focus on gratitude.
Mm-hmm. So important. It's a massive shift, right? I've been through like times in my life, phases where, you know, my life was characterized by a lot of negativity. And, you know, I had that sort of like victim mindset where, why are these things happening to me? Why does everything always go wrong for me? Like, I can't believe this is happening again, you know? It's like, you know, you're trying to save up for something and then you get a vet bill and then you get ill and you can't go to work. This actually just happened to me. It was awesome. But, you know, it's like, I just had to switch the mindset and go like, hey, I'm so lucky that my dog went through surgery totally fine and she's feeling a lot better now. She's not in pain anymore. Yes, I got sick, but now my immunity is higher for when I fly to Australia next month, which is really awesome. Like, lessens my chance of getting sick while I'm on holiday, which is great, you know? Everything happens for a reason, and it's just about how you think about it. So sitting down in the morning, at night, and thinking about what you're grateful for, it really puts things into perspective, and you realize how lucky you are to have those things that you don't necessarily think about that much, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I get to live in Vancouver, and I'm lucky that it's a sunny, beautiful day, and I'm lucky to have my friend Sarah, and I'm lucky to have my beautiful, beautiful dog who's whining in the other room. Sorry if you're hearing that. And I'm lucky that I got to eat a donut today. So, yeah.
Lucky that you get to go to work.
Yes, I'm very lucky to have a job. That's very true as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah, I think one of the other tools that has helped me immensely is working on building my self-confidence.
We got a little episode about that.
We sure do. We sure do. But the more you work on building your self-confidence, it's essentially like creating an invisible armor around yourself, where the things that would normally tear you down, you're much more able to now deflect in a way, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way of putting it.
Thanks.
Good way of putting it. Yeah. I mean, just confidence helps with like everything.
It's sure. Yeah, it really, really does. Yeah.
The way you tackle the world, situations. Mm-hmm. Helps with everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the main takeaway from this episode is that, like, all of us are going through it. All of us are really always on a day-to-day basis comparing ourselves to others. And that's human nature.
Yeah.
That's a normal behavior that we do as humans. We compare ourselves to others, right? And the other thing is that we're all wired to want to be special and unique. And so what's important is that we use that comparison to others and to our former selves as a way to inspire us and uplift us and guide us as to what we want for the future. Mm-hmm. And also important that we maintain a sense of self. We value our identity as individuals. So we don't go and look at another person and compare ourselves and go, I want to be that person, you know, and try to emulate who that other person is.
But instead, gain inspiration from them. Be like, what things do they do that I find cool? Maybe they're into like some really cool sport that you've always wanted to try. How can you incorporate that into your life? Like, just take inspiration instead. It's being conscious of these feelings and emotions of envy, of comparing yourself to others, and just that mental switch into like admiration and how can you go about it in a positive manner instead of letting it affect you in any like negative way.
It's a tough exercise and it's not always going to work, but
and in terms of looks, you're beautiful. You're beautiful.
Thanks.
I'm beautiful. Everyone in the world is beautiful in their own way. There are like a billion different kinds of flowers, and all of them are beautiful, and they all look different. Just saying, we're all beautiful little flowers at the end of the day.
Yeah,
we can look different from one another, but still be beautiful.
Yes, there is difference. There's beauty in difference.
Beauty and uniqueness.
There's beauty in individuality. Cute.
Just thought I should throw that in.
Yeah, no, I like that. That was a nice way to wrap things up.
Yeah. So just that mental switch.
Yeah,
just
let us
being
know.
conscious of it, I think, is like the biggest thing. Because like you'll learn to navigate it better as you just become aware. Be like, it's mental switch.
Well, let us know if any of these tips and tricks work for you. And just stay positive.
Yeah. Seek inspiration from everything, everywhere you can get it. Why not? Can never have too much. Never have too much inspo.
That's very true.
Yeah. And you're beautiful.
Okay. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your input, so feel free to reach out to us with any feedback, comments, or suggestions for future episodes.
If you would like to support us, please be sure to leave us a rating and review on your favorite platform and subscribe so you never miss us.
See you next week.
Toodles.